notice all of this craziness going on up on the stage, and there's signs everywhere, and there's stuff everywhere kind of laying around for kids camp. And what I hope that communicates to you is that we really value children. We really, really value children here. In fact, Jesus valued children so much that he said, if you hurt children, you should die. Honestly, Jesus is very serious about how we take care of children, and so I want to make sure that everybody knows, like, yeah, we go all out, we go all in. That's why we have like a rock climbing silhouette. By the way, let's just take a minute to look at that. That person is about to die. She is not hanging on, or he with the ponytail is not hanging on for very much longer. That grip strength has got to end at some point. But anyway, we're excited about Kids Camp, and we're excited about the PB&J 500, which is actually to collect 1,000. I've been all over social media. Kimber's been making all the posts and everything for that. Went on the radio, I was on the TV, and actually Buffalo picked up the story from Syracuse, and so they aired it in Buffalo, which I'm like, okay, why? Unless they're going to put a tractor trailer together of peanut butter, which is fine, you know, if they want to do that. Make sure you get this in. I know that it's looking scant right now in our collection zones, but that's okay, because we typically start slow and then make a push toward the end of the month when the offices start to fill up and then people are bringing it from their house and all that stuff. So don't forget about it. It's a big, huge, giant thing for our church. Make sure that we're participating. If you want to take a yard sign, they're located in the lobby up by the stairs, and you can grab one of those and you can be a drop-off location at your house. I want to be a church that's known for helping and giving stuff away when we can. And so I got a phone call this week from a friend of mine who has a connection at Costco, and he uses his connection at Costco to take things to different missionaries down in the Dominican Republic. Well, he had packed up everything that he could take and said, hey, Wayne, I have all of these vitamins. Would you be interested in them? And I said, absolutely. I'll be a guy that helps you get rid of that stuff. And so we have literally hundreds of these airborne vitamin C vitamins. You may take as many as you like for yourself. You may take as many as you think you can give away. You may not sell them. Seriously, that is like a big FDA issue. So please do not be that person. So who's interested in berry? Emily, who's interested in citrus?
Good.
Right there. I have something very, very exciting to tell you. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that we were talking about expanding our parking lot situation. We have someone heading that team up to figure out how that's going to happen. But the most exciting thing about it right now is that we actually have a date on the calendar for when the company is going to come and start ripping up stuff in September. So I'm very, very excited about that. It just means that there's a lot of things to do between now and then, one of which is to make sure the town gives us the thumbs up on that. And so we really need to be praying for the town of Salina every single day, all day, never stopping to make that happen. Because I've heard they can be notoriously tough to work with, and so I want to make sure we get that done. Now, we're in this series going along with Kids Camp, again, emphasizing how much we think of our children and how much we want to go along with them and help them and grow them, and in the process, grow ourselves closer to Jesus as well. And our verse for this series is John chapter 10, verse 10, where Jesus says, I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. Now, Jesus does in fact want us to be fully alive people. Jesus does not want us to have a fake version of life. Jesus does not want us to have a generic version of life. I've used this illustration many times. Jesus wants you to have Lucky Charms, not fortunate medallions. You know what I'm saying? So Jesus has a real life in store for you, a real full life, being fully alive in Him, and that's what's in store for us when we give ourselves to Jesus. Now, I'm a guy who is not a perfect person, but when I feel the Holy Spirit pushing me, taunting me, saying things to me over and over and over again, I feel like I need to address that. I need to talk about that with my church. I need to make sure that, that we're all thinking these same things. I don't think the Holy Spirit teaches me for nothing. I don't think he teaches us for nothing. I think there's something behind it. And so along with this idea of a real life and a generic life, or a real life and a fake life, I've had several conversations this week about religion versus being in a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so what I want to say about that is religion is not what Jesus died for. Jesus did not come down, go through all he went through, and go to the cross and bleed and die so that we could just come to church and just have a checklist and just do this thing or that thing or whatever. Jesus came and did all of that so that we, in our imperfect, sinful states, might have a relationship with him. Now, have you heard ever of a loveless marriage? Yes, you probably have. We're going to stay together for the kids. What a stupid reason to do that. In a loveless marriage, you go through the motions. And in religion, you go through the motions. Well, I go to church every Sunday, so I'm a good person. Oh, no, you're not. Well, I donated to the food bank. I'm a good person. That ain't what it means. And see, there's a big, giant, huge difference in doing what I'm supposed to do this, doing that, versus being in a relationship with Jesus and doing what that relationship pushes you to do. I don't think any spouse or anybody in any kind of relationship feels valued and loved when the other person says, well, you told me to, so I did. And in a relationship with Jesus, I don't think Jesus is pumped when you go, well, Wayne stood up there for 20 minutes and told me to do this, so I did it. That's not what Jesus wants from us. Jesus did not come so that we might have a religious relationship with him, but so that we could have a one-on-one, heartfelt relationship with him. Well, I give stuff. Well, in the Old Testament, there's a story where the priests, God is very angry at the priests because they're just giving and their hearts are far away from him. And God says, your sacrifices are worthless if your heart isn't there. And so I want to just make sure that we understand, when you wake up on Sunday morning and you come to church, if you're coming to do a checkbox thing, you're wasting your time. If you're coming so that you can say yes to Jesus, then you are developing into a life that it will be fully alive. Now, I'm not saying stop coming, but I'm saying if you're coming just to check it off of your list, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. And so I want to make sure that when Jesus says he came so that we could have a life that is fully alive, a fully alive life is not a checklist religious life. That's just not what it is. Can I have that mic, please?
This one?
This is driving me insane, so I'm taking this off. Please turn it off so I don't. It won't stay still on my face. My head is too bulbous for that. So, anyway, I just got to preaching for a minute. I do not apologize, but that's what it is. Jesus didn't come so that we could look like we're doing relationship with him. Jesus came so that we would have a real relationship with him. And I want to make sure that you understand that. Several people in this past week, I'm not going to say it, but we've had conversations where the religious activity was touted as great, but there was no relationship with Jesus. And I go, you're completely missing the point. Jesus wants you, how you are, where you are, and he will do with you what you allow him to do with you. Not your religious activity, not your checkbook. He wants you. Now, all right, I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit. Sorry. Today we're going to look at a woman named Hadassah. Hadassah is also known as Esther, and in the Old Testament, there's all these powerful stories about kings and rulers and prophets, and they're doing all these amazing, great, wonderful things for God. God is speaking to them through burning bushes and doing all this amazing, interesting, awesome stuff. And then smack dab in the middle of that is a book called Esther. And Esther is a very young woman at the time of this story, and she is not necessarily the heroine that we would expect a biblical character to be, right? So when we see something in the Bible, it's typically a cautionary tale, or it's somebody who's like, bah, 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 like they feel like, you know, we read it, we go, this person is amazing. And Esther is just an Esther. She's just a person. So she is named Hadassah, and she's also known as Esther, so we'll refer to her as Esther. In Esther's story, it starts with the King Xerxes. King Xerxes, the one in particular we're talking about here, was born in 518 BC. He became the king of Persia in 485 BC. He was 33 years old when he became king. And his kingdom stretched from India to Ethiopia. And I want to show you that because that's a massive kingdom. Man, that is a terrible image. That is a massive kingdom. If you think about all of India going up through Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all of that, all the way down into Ethiopia. You have Egypt, Sudan, you have all that. That's a giant kingdom. He was situated in modern-day Iran. So you can see the little dot there. That's where his headquarters was at this time. Now, King Xerxes, being very, very wealthy, being very, very powerful, he throws a party. And I'm not talking like we're going to have you guys over for the afternoon and then you have to get out. He throws a party for 180 days. That is a 6 months long party. I'm going to tell you, if you're going to throw a party for 180 days, you better have a place where you can go that nobody can find you. All right? For just a few minutes. You better have a staff to clean up all that stuff. Can you imagine the septic system for a party for 180 days? I can't. It's crazy. So it's a 6 month long party, and at the final night of the feast, Xerxes, he has this wife named Queen Vashti, and he wants to invite Vashti into the party so that he can say, hey everybody, check out my wife. My wife is dope. I want everybody to see how fantastic she is. Well, Vashti says, I ain't no trophy wife. I'm not coming to your party. You can just stuff it. I'm not coming down there. You're all drunk and acting stupid. I'm not coming down there to do that. And so he sends for her again. She's like, look, for reals, I'm not coming to your party. So King Xerxes is very upset about this. And this all happens in front of his boys, right? You ever been embarrassed in front of your friends, like when you were a kid? Like, you ever get a spanking for your mom around your friends? That's like the worst possible thing that can happen. No, man, she's just playing, man. I don't know what's going on. Something's wrong with her. Mom's sick or something. I don't know. You just like try to make these excuses for why you just got beat in front of your boys. I actually got a spanking one time in front of traffic. My dad and I were riding bikes, and I thought it would be cool to ride a wheelie across 6 lanes of traffic. Well, that thing happens where the bike comes out from underneath of you, and I just, I caught it because I used to be cool, and I just kind of like fell off, but it didn't fall down. I just walked across the road. He said, "What are you doing?" And just right there, 6 lanes of traffic. Get back, get back, get back. And I was like, just walking around like, what's going on? So anyway, this is how Xerxes is feeling in front of his boys, just like tail between his legs. My wife won't come, And so his boys are like, oh, you can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. And Xerxes is like, you're right, I can't let this happen. And so what they come up with, Xerxes' advisors, they come up with this plan to say, you have to cut her loose. You have to get rid of Queen Vashti, because otherwise, if you don't do something, every wife in all of your kingdom, from India to Ethiopia, they will no longer respect their husbands. They will no longer do what their husbands say. They will no longer be subservient to their husbands. Now, Xerxes hears this plan and he goes, yeah, that's what we got to do. And so Xerxes deposes Queen Vashti in 482 BC. He's 36 years old. So when that happens, Xerxes sends a bulletin, sends his fastest horses out to every corner of his kingdom, telling exactly what happened and what he did about it, so that the women won't rise up. They'll continue to be subservient. Remember, it's a different time, okay? 2018, it's a long time ago, okay? Women did not have the value that they deserve at that time. And so it's a totally different thing. I ain't about to start no revolutions or anything like that. Everybody calm down. It's not going to be that way. I'm not going to... This is the modern day... You ever seen like a husband or wife post something that their spouse did on Facebook, and then they start arguing back and forth on Facebook? Okay, if you've ever done that, delete Facebook immediately. Like, delete every social media account, sit in the tub and repent. I don't know, whatever you have to do to stop doing that. So, after Xerxes deposes Vashti, this search for a new queen begins, and so the king sends out a bulletin, bring me the most beautiful virgins of the land. I'm looking for a new king. Now, this is where Mordecai and Hadassah, or Mordecai and Esther, enter the picture. Mordecai and Esther were both Jewish, and they were living in exile in Iran, or in the capital where Xerxes was. Mordecai was Esther's older cousin, and he adopted Esther when her parents died. It was said of Esther that she was beautiful and had a lovely figure. Now, so Esther is convinced by Mordecai, hey, you know what? Throw your hat in the ring. You never know what could happen. And so Esther throws her hat in the ring, and when she is selected, she goes into the king's harem. And so the process is this. The king sends out this bulletin. All these beautiful virgins come to his palace, and there is someone, a eunuch. You guys know what that means?
Yes.
Google it.
Aaron will tell you after church if you don't know. So there's a eunuch in charge of the harem, and so he says, he's like the bouncer at the club, you know, like, yeah, you can come in or you can't come in or whatever. And so he gathers all of these women, and the process goes like this. There's a year-long process before a woman can go and be before the king. She has to get bathed, and she has to go through beauty treatments, she has to get her hair did, all this stuff that she has to go through. And then finally, when it's her turn, she goes to spend the night with the king. You guys get what I'm doing with that right there? All of the virgins of the land, they're having s'mores and Netflix and all that stuff. You get what I'm saying, right? So they go and they spend the night with him, and the next day he can say yes or no. Now, Esther, a Jewish, beautiful virgin, does her year-long beauty regimen. She goes and spends the night with Xerxes, and the next morning Xerxes has decided Esther is the one I want. She will be my queen. Xerxes married Esther in 479 BC. He was about 40 years old, and Esther was most likely 16 or 17 years old. Again, it's a different time. This didn't happen last week, all right? Now, soon after this, Mordecai, who is Mordecai, Esther's cousin, he discovers a plot to kill Xerxes. Like, there's people that are scheming. They're gonna kill Xerxes. They're gonna dethrone him. They're gonna get rid of this guy. And Mordecai, being the God-fearing, God-honoring man that he is, says, I'm going to report this. And so he takes it to one of Xerxes' officials named Haman. Haman, remember that name, Haman. Turns out to not be a great dude. So Haman takes the story to Xerxes. The plot is foiled, and then Haman is hailed as a hero, right? So Haman took the credit for Mordecai's finding of this story. What a tool, right? What a jerk. Who does that? But Haman takes his credit. He's elevated in Xerxes' castle. He's elevated in Xerxes' eyes, and he becomes rich, and he becomes famous and all this stuff. Now, because Haman is a tool, he decides that whenever anybody sees me, you better bow down. You're going to bow down. You're gonna. Haman is the best. Whatever kind of chant they had going on. Now, Mordecai refuses to do this. Are you guys bored?
No.
Okay, story's dope. Mordecai refuses to do this because Mordecai is a God-fearing Jew, and he's not going to have any false idols. And so whenever everybody else is bowing down to Haman, Mordecai just like, stop, dude. Like, he's not bowing down to him. He's not going to do it. Well, this infuriates Haman, and Haman wants to kill Mordecai, but not being okay with just killing Mordecai, Haman decides, you know what? We got to wipe all these Jews off the planet. We got to get rid of all these guys. And so Haman takes this plan to Xerxes, and he says, listen, these Jews, they're undermining you. They're not doing what you want them to do. They're not bowing down to me like I told them to. They don't know what's up. So we need to get rid of all of them. Xerxes, like, yeah, sounds like a plan. Who cares? Like, I don't, whatever. I'm playing Tetris or whatever they're doing back then. He was busy, and so he told Haman, go ahead and handle that. Well, Mordecai hears about this plan. Who's Mordecai?
Esther's cousin.
Esther's cousin. He goes to Esther, who is a what? A Jew, and says, hey, Haman's got this plan to get you all to kill all the Jews. And Esther says, oh, that sucks. And Mordecai says, hey, dude, for real, you need to go and talk to your husband and tell him that this is the plan that Haman is plotting, and try and get this figured out. Mordecai doesn't want to die. He doesn't want the Jews to die either. So he says, go and talk to your husband and get them to stop this. Esther's response is, I cannot talk to my husband because if he doesn't like what I have to say, he's going to kill me. Mm-hmm. Ladies, imagine that relationship with your husband. That, I think, would not be super great. Right? I need to go grocery shopping. It's Cheez-Its, not Cheese Nips. Don't come back with that mess, right? So, Mordecai, Esther's hesitancy is there. Mordecai says, listen, you are a Jew. Do you think that you will escape this? Look at this passage. Look, you're a Jew. Do you think that you'll be spared? If you remain silent, relief and deliverance will come from somewhere else, but you and your family will all die. Perhaps you became queen for such a time as this. Now, Esther becomes bold and she says, I'll talk to the king, and if I die, I die. She talks to the king and tells him that she is a Jew and that Haman has devised this plan to get rid of all the Jews. And Xerxes, being very pleased with his wife, says to Haman, who do you think you are? This is my wife, bro. Have you ever had to do that anywhere? You guys know the guy with the megaphone downtown? Okay. Let's just say, I had to do that with that guy before. Told me I was going to hell, said something to my wife, and I went like this, and my friend grabbed my arm as I was going forward. Okay? I understand defending your wife. I understand. I'll smack a fool. I ain't even scared, right? I'll do it. And so Xerxes wants to defend his wife. And so what Xerxes does is he foils his plan. He takes Haman and he impales him on a 75-foot tall post. In fact, Haman had built that post so that he could impale Mordecai. Right. Not being finished, at Esther's request, Xerxes kills Haman's 10 sons. Now, okay, so in a matter of a couple verses, Esther went from, I can't do that, to kill them all! Let's get rid of these people! And I think, yes, that is awesome. That is what we should be doing. And not us, but, I like the story. Now, Queen Esther, because of her eventual bravery, saved the Jews living under the rule of King Xerxes. Mordecai is honored and esteemed and held in high regard. And that is literally the end of the story of Esther. Not a very dramatic, hey, we all learned a lesson, and everything was fine. But we have to understand, and this is what I want us to learn about Esther. That took 20 minutes for me to say that? Oh my goodness. We must understand about Esther that Esther is not a perfect person. Esther is not a perfect person, and the Bible is pregnant with people who are imperfect people who God used for mighty outcomes. Esther is not rich. She is not from a royal bloodline, but she still rose to be queen. Her fairy tale did not end with laying on a cushion and servants giving her grapes. But in fact, her fairy tale ended and started because she was meant to save the Jewish people from genocide. Now, Esther wasn't always doing this, but we, now knowing the story of Esther, knowing more of what we know about the Bible, I believe that we need to live our lives as though God actually has a plan for us. Amen. Now, you probably will not rise to be queen or king of some kingdom somewhere, kill a bunch of people on a stick or whatever. But there is a plan for your life. God does have a plan for your life. And I'm going to wipe away all the mystery of it right now. Okay? You ready? In fact, Jesus did it 2,000 years ago. In Matthew chapter 22, Jesus said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these two commands." People ask, we want to know, what is God's plan for my life? And Jesus has cleared that air for us. God's plan for your life is to love Him and to love other people. And sometimes I think we get upset that it's not like a sexier thing. Like, I want to feed the world. That's loving people. You can do that. Should I take a job in Tupelo or whatever other town? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because you can love God and you can love other people wherever you go. Our job, our plan, is to love God and to love other people. So, I read the story of Esther and I go, so what? So what? What am I supposed to learn from this? Really quickly, I want to give you 3 things that I learned from this story. The first one is this. Your circumstances do not eliminate you from living fully alive. Your circumstances do not eliminate you from living fully alive. From a worldly perspective, what are the strikes that Esther had against her? Right? First of all, she was Jewish.
Woman.
Right? Being Jewish was not a strike. The fact that she was Jewish living in exile is the strike. She was closeted about it, so she was cowardly. So she had to deal with that. The second strike against her is that she was a fornicator. Right? She slept with the king ahead of time. She was too cowardly to say, listen, I'm not doing this. I serve God. We don't do this until we get married. And fornicator is like one of those old school, like from the 50s. Y'all are a bunch of fornicators. But it's a real word. And it's a real sin. And it's a real struggle. She was a fornicator. Another strike she had, she was too young to make a difference. And again, this is from the world's perspective. This is not God's perspective. But what I want us to understand is that we all have strikes against us. Every single person in this room, every person that you will encounter in life, we all have strikes against us. We all have things that we think preclude us from God's love or serving God or doing anything effective in our life. We all have things that we think preclude us from having a life that is fully alive. Listen, none of our strikes and none of our insecurities keep Jesus from loving us or keep Jesus from making us fully alive. Man, I'm on Tangent Street today. We play in a Christian softball league. We don't have all Christians on our team. We don't have people who all have perfect mouth syndrome, where nothing bad comes out, preacher included. And I got into a yelling match with some old Jesus-y lady on the other sideline a few weeks ago. And what I should have said was nothing. What I did say was worse. Right? But I want to say, it's like, we're in this league and we're not all Christians because our church is different. Because our church, we understand what Jesus says when we think about these strikes and insecurities that we have in our life, that God still loves us and still wants us.
Amen.
Some churches don't understand that. And it pisses me off. What are you doing with your life if you're not accepting people who are unacceptable? So, your circumstances do not eliminate you from being fully alive. Number 2, your past does not eliminate you from being fully alive. Your past does not eliminate you from being fully alive. She was adopted because both of her parents were dead. You think there's some pain involved in that? I do. We've all got pain. We've all got reasons to be angry with God. But rather than being angry with God, we can use that as fuel to move past our anger into a brighter future with Him. This is a dirty church, man. Everybody that I know here has a past. Divorce has affected people here. Abuse, both sexual and physical, has affected people here. Anything you can think of. I've sat in my office and I've talked to people and tried to get through it. Your past, what you did or what was done to you, does not eliminate you from being fully alive. That's the second thing I learned. I got super heavy, but I don't apologize, but it is what it is. Third thing I learned was this: your sin does not eliminate you from being fully alive. Your circumstances don't, your past doesn't, and your sins don't eliminate you from being fully alive. Listen, I want you to own every part of your story. Own every part of your story. Don't allow your past, your sin, to dictate what God can do through you now. Esther was initially a coward, hiding her Jewish identity and having premarital sex. However, her sin did not stop her from doing great things. Think about your life. What is your honest assessment of where you've been and what you've done and who you are? I had a friend recently tell me he wanted so much praise for a jar of peanut butter and a jar of jelly. And I thought, dude, if you knew what the Wagner family did for PB&J 500, you would slap yourself in the mouth. I didn't say that. What I said was other things. What I should have said was nothing. And I tell you that because people think, oh, I did this thing and I said hi to a bum and everything's good. Like I gave him my leftovers, so I'm a great person. No, you're not. No, you are not. Because Paul in the Bible said that your righteousness, our righteousness, all of the things that we think we've done right is like filthy rags in front of God. And you want to know what it means when it says filthy rags? It's not mechanics rags. That's the translation. You guys want me to sanitize the Bible? It ain't happening, man. I'm going to preach this thing until I die, and I'm going to talk about the truth. Amen. And so what I want us to understand is that I want you to have an honest assessment of your life. And I want you to know this. Jesus cannot use you unless you're broken. Jesus exclusively hires sinful people. They're the only ones that can work for him. And so I want us to have an exclusive, honest assessment about who we are, knowing that God works with sinners and screwed up people. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. We're going to sing a song to close here in just a minute. But I want to say this, and I want you to understand this. I want you to hear this if you haven't heard anything else. The Bible is full of broken, screwed up, and defeated people who chose to say yes to God rather than to allow their past or their circumstances or their sin to dictate what they are. This is what we should be doing. Jesus wants you where you are, exactly as you are, and then he will shape you and mold you as long as you continue to say yes to him into someone who is fully alive. We are not alive. Understand, we are not alive because we are great and we can break our arms patting ourselves on the back. If there is any life in us at all, it is because it has come through Jesus Christ and not through ourselves. Okay? Let's stand. Let's worship. Let's give this to Jesus right now.